Welcome to Resource PNG. Papua New Guinea is prone to disasters, both natural and man-made. In recent months, the country has had to deal with the effects of drought caused by the onset of El Nino. The National Disaster Centre, in partnership with the University of Papua New Guinea, have partnered in delivering training on how to deal with disasters. This week saw 83 participants graduate with a certificate in careful hazards and risk management. This week, 83 young Papua New Guineans graduated with a certificate in disaster risk management from the University of Papua New Guinea. Through the Careful Hazard and Risk Management Program, or CHARM, these students were certified after completing studies on how to identify, assess and respond to disasters. These students, the fourth batch of graduates under the CHARM program. The National Disaster Centre, the agency responsible for reacting to these disasters, has been working closely with the University of Papua New Guinea in recent years to develop appropriate training specifically for responding to disasters.
That was the challenge that we faced, that the country lacks the capacity, and we really need to get together with our highest institution like PNG, and we will start talking about that and start to come up to address some skills, the body of knowledge that we think that can better enable our officers who are now presiding as provincial disaster coordinators, and not only that, our university students as well, because I think our aim now is to build the capacity of our entire community in Papua New Guinea. And that actually leads us to this very program that we are talking about, CHAM. It's a very good start for me, especially to see that we have at least started doing something for this country. We are not only talking about it and not doing something about it. We know that there's a problem there. There's a situation that we need to address, and we have taken one step forward to start doing that. And that is the whole purpose of this program, where we like to bring disaster management structure right down to ward level, if you like. And with D-Day coming on board, we see it as a government body that has been designed to help strengthen or to help empower people at the village level so that they can be able to have better service. And you cannot be talking about better service without having those structures in place at that level to build. For disaster management, we like to bring the committee right onto that level if possible, or even if there's an arrangement right down there that we'll have to serve better in terms of response, and not only that, in terms of preparedness as well.
Despite facing challenges, the National Disaster Centre is committed to training more Papua New Guineans on disaster risk management in the professional field. These students will be able to deal with various disasters, another positive step in building the capacity of disaster response in the country.
Those are the challenges. That's why we are working on this program. This program are for long-term sustainability of our disaster management capacity in order to address all those. Yes, we've been working with the UN system as well, DMT, UNDP, and of course we are not talking about how can we better come together and consolidate those efforts to better prepare ourselves. It's a real challenge. We still yet to bring on other government agencies as well to strengthen that partnership and arrangement so that we could better pull together our resource in terms of manpower as well as technical know-how, capacity in order to work. And I think it's about time we have to start working with University of Papua New Guinea. I mean, we, National Disaster Centre, we saw a need. These institutions were not established just to conduct design program that they're supposed to conduct. No, they are also here to start looking at challenges, emerging challenges that are coming up, and how best can we address that. They're here to come out or to work outside of that perimeter to address that. And for us to better prepare, we still have tasks to work on. Yes, we can say that yes, we can ask the government to give us funding immediately to start responding. But for us, we think that if we can better have those system arrangement capacity in place, then that will give us the edge to better counter. But I think that situation that we have faced has given us a lot of lessons. We have learned a lot of lessons out of that, and of course the previous one. And I think it has given us a better position now to better strategize and better, start putting into action plan, our preparedness plan for the next one that we'll be expecting.
Head of Environmental Science and Geography at the University of Papua New Guinea and Course Coordinator, Professor Chalapan Kaluin, has been heavily involved in the initiation of the CHARM program, something which he says is needed now more than ever due to the increasing numbers of disasters, both natural and man-made.
The design is marketable, but it started on how does all the small island countries around the world look at the vulnerability. And it started in 1990, and when Papua New Guinea was going through, it found that there's a lot of disasters right across the whole Pacific Islands region. And so when the governments decided to look at this issue, governments around the world, they found that small island countries are the most vulnerable, including Papua New Guinea. Whether it's a cyclone, whether it's a famine, whether it's a bushfire, whether it's what they call civil unrest, and all these are combinations of issues that happens in one country. And so it started off along this, and then it started in relation to how does countries in small island or Pacific Islands get together to deal with this issue. And so one of the things that we identified, even though we had all this magnitude, like I said, magnitude of disasters happening in our own country, you have to start it from home. How does disaster start from your village, from your family? Managing disaster starts from there. If you can start with your family, you train your own people, you train your own family to start with a little kid to know how to manage his own family disaster. Then he walks back to all the big disasters. If you can manage that, if you can look at that with a certain common minds and flow, including putting spiritual belief inside, a lot of results will follow in this lane. The issue of this thing started saying when we looked around the capacity around the Pacific, including Papua New Guinea was struggling. We're struggling on being a big country, even though we're the biggest population. We couldn't handle the very civil unrest. Let me take you to Bougainville. We couldn't handle it because there were quite a lot of other economic disasters, civil unrests, and so on and so forth. And that challenged our own governments. Is it because it's a sustainable development issue, economics, or is it a social issue, or is it an economic issue, or is it a livelihood issues? Those in part and partial of what we call the government's thinking, or any government who were thinking, you were trained to do this. A lot of our people don't actually get trained to do this. And so from here we started, now we're pushing it to our governments. So the government's hopefully becoming a policy. And once you're a policy, then that's the most important. Like I said, I'll re-emphasize it. You start with your human resources and capacity building. If you can get the country to be quite aware, Papua New Guinea shouldn't have too much problem, even though we have challenges on our more than 700 languages. And if you can manage those kind of things, like I said, from starting from home, all the way to economics, all the way to the environment, all the way to livelihoods. And what I mean livelihoods, it could be health. It could be our own culture. It could be housing frenzy that we have here in Port Moresby. The second step, I expect provincial governments, I expect the DDAs to district plans to take on the next step. But the capacity is the most important issue here. And so those are the kind of plans, those are the kind of training. They're real, but we want to make sure that institutions like not only University of Papua New Guinea, but institutions like Unitec, the various institutions of research, the medical schools, should start thinking about these challenges.
In partnership with the PNG government, National Disaster Centre and UPNG, this training has allowed the PNG government to enhance human and capacity building throughout the country and support the provincial governments and its ward staff to manage all forms of disasters at home. Professor Kaluin says following CHARM's blessings from the university's academic council to run its diploma component in 2015, more and more students from within science and from other schools have signed up learning new curriculum about management and designing policy development in mitigating dangers, threats and risks in the country as well as in the Pacific. Disaster preparedness and response will be important now more than ever to ensure that the country deals with these challenges head on. You're watching Resource PNG. After the break, we take you to the Autonomous Region of Bougainville. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching Resource PNG. Since being granted autonomy status in 2005, the Autonomous Region of Bougainville has been working to have most functions brought back to the Autonomous Bougainville Government. Among these, the ownership and regulation of the mineral sector. In April 2015, the Bougainville Mining Act was passed in the House of Representatives and took effect, paving the way for the ABG to shoulder the responsibility of monitoring activities relating to mining on the island. Resource PNG was in the Autonomous Region recently and spoke to ABG President, Chief Dr. John Mommis, about the effects of this specific legislation. The island of Bougainville is located to the east of Papua New Guinea's mainland. With a population of around 150,000, the Autonomous Region of Bougainville remains one of the most diverse areas of the country. Bougainville itself is blessed with an abundance of minerals. In fact, the island's former Panguna mine was at one time the world's largest open-cut copper mine. This mine also sparked a bloody 10-year civil war on this once peaceful island. Following the end of the civil war, the island was granted autonomy status, allowing the people of Bougainville to elect their leaders to the Bougainville House of Representatives. The first House of Representatives was elected in 2005 for a 5-year term. In June 2015, members of the third House of Representatives were sworn into office, with Chief Dr. John Mommis elected as President. The Autonomous Region of Bougainville has its own challenges. Now it is up to the Bougainville House of Representative members to meet these challenges head-on for a prosperous Autonomous Region of Bougainville. The Autonomous Bougainville Government has some challenges ahead, not least managing the mining interests on Bougainville, with the Autonomous Region having its own Mining Act, which came into effect on April the 1st, 2015. However, there have been some concerns raised in recent times over the manner in which people of a certain origin have been flooding into Bougainville to undertake mining activities. Resource PNG was fortunate enough to speak with ABG President, Chief Dr. John Mommis, to get his thoughts on these concerns.
European origin coming to Bougainville, some through the back door, others of course through the front door. And in a post-crisis situation, these visits raise a lot of eyebrows. We are developing policies to ensure that we don't close our doors on credible investors. Bougainville needs good investors, credible investors. We can't do it on our own. We know Bougainville, just like PNG, has a lot of is endowed with rich natural resources. We have pristine forests and waters and many beautiful islands. Our people are hardworking, but we have been reduced to basic humanity by the crisis. So we need to select our partners. And it is true, some come through the back door, and some, even the ones who come through the front door, are still looked upon with a lot of suspicion by our people. And just recently, there's a group of Chinese who are working with the landowners on the Java River, setting up a project to produce aggregates for road sealing and so on and so forth, and recovering some gold. And they have been attacked by some people, not from the vicinity, but from outside, from central Bougainville. That is most unfortunate, because these people have the what do you call it, the blessing, or the, they came under the ABG has allowed them to come in. Because the landowners, they are very happy with them, and they are observing our laws, our policies. But of course, because of we've had some bad, not bad, but we've had some unfortunate people from Asia who have not done the right thing. Our people they tend to categorize everybody from Asia or anybody from outside. There's a lot of anti-outside feeling in Bougainville right now, and it's unfortunate, but that is a typical post-crisis situation.
President Momis is quick to point out that the ABG is working to strengthen its monitoring agencies to minimize the abuse of its resources. However, this will require funding, something which the ABG is struggling with at this point of time. President Momis says Papua New Guinea's national government is partly to blame for this lack of funding, given its perceived lack of support to the ABG.
Yes, I'm somewhat disappointed. And unfortunately, this seems to be a trend in the recent past, because the Bougainville Peace Agreement requires compliance with the national government and the compliance with the ABG.
So what is the future of mining on Bougainville? We may just have to wait and see. One thing for certain, there is a lot of work to be done to ensure that the Autonomous Region of Bougainville can manage its minerals in a responsible manner.
We asked the the United Nations, with its peace building fund, to assist us to raise awareness and educate people about some of these issues, so that they don't conclude that everybody is here to help himself. There are some people who are not doing the right thing, but the ABG also, I must say, does not have the capacity to enforce rules and laws and regulations. We make a lot of very good policies because of our experience of what the people didn't like, during the crisis, but we just lack the implementing capacity.
You're watching Resource PNG. When we come back, a look at the United Nations' work in strengthening the parliamentary system in the Autonomous Region of Bougainville. Welcome back. The United Nations continues to play a pivotal role in the Autonomous Region of Bougainville. Recently, the UN facilitated a workshop for members of Bougainville's House of Representatives to better understand and more effectively perform their roles. The initiative is part of UN's ongoing efforts to support the parliamentary work in Papua New Guinea. Now, behind me is the Bougainville House of Representatives. Now, the members elected by the Bougainvillian people into this house will plan the future of the Autonomous Region of Bougainville in the years to come. And the United Nations is also playing its role by educating the members on the necessary parliamentary procedures. Members of the Autonomous Region of Bougainville's House of Representatives met in Buka to undergo an induction program facilitated by the United Nations. The workshop provided an opportunity for members to be informed of the various parliamentary processes as well as the roles of the different parliamentary committees. According to Speaker Simon Pentanu, the opportunity presented to the members was important, especially given the fact that this is only the third House of Representatives on Bougainville since its inception in 2005.
It's the third parliament, so I think the fact that we have had two previous houses, the first house and the second house, does also count for something in terms of what we are doing. We've also, with the under the auspices of the United Nations Peace Fund, we've included this induction mostly to impart awareness, but also get questions and comments from members so that they are fully aware of the issues involved, the legal parameters, the requirements, the processes, everything to do with referendum. But I want to stress that it's a joint creation between the national government and the leaders of Bougainville.
Similar sentiments shared by the Autonomous Region's presidents.
They represent the aspirations, the real needs of their constituents, and when they are well informed and encouraged and enlightened, of course they play their role effectively, and of course it enhances their ability to represent their constituents. And also I think it gives them the stimulus to persevere in a difficult situation when there is shortage of funds, when we are dealing with a post-crisis situation where there's a lot of trauma and a lot of misunderstanding, and we have a big population of our youth who could call lost generation, and they don't understand. So the elected members play a very important role, and they themselves must be well informed.
The United Nations, through the Peace Building Fund, took the lead in facilitating this workshop by way of bringing parliamentarians and parliamentary staff from Australia, New Zealand and Solomon Islands to share their experiences with their Bougainville counterparts. UN Programme Coordinator Lawrence Bassi was pleased with the outcomes.
I think it has been a very productive 3-day, and this induction workshop came as a result of a needs assessment mission that was done in October last year, where consultations were widely held with the Bougainville House of Representatives at the highest echelons, as the Speaker and the Secretariat, and they asked for this kind of workshop. Basically, I think this is the first in a series of peace-building fund activities, for both Bougainville and the national government, where, of course, we are here to help build capacity of the parliamentarians in terms of parliamentary processes, practices and norms, etc., by bringing in experts from other parliaments and other jurisdictions to actually come in and create a platform where they could freely exchange views and experiences on how proceedings in Parliament, especially standing orders and all of those things, could be achieved.
This is not the first and certainly not the last time that the United Nations will be assisting the ABG in developing its governance capacity, beginning with its House of Representatives.
This is just a first in a series of capacity building initiatives, and as we move along over the next 3 years, I'm sure the UN under the Peace Building Fund is here to provide such support, not just to Bougainville House of Representative Parliament, but the National Parliament as well, because both governments are signatories to the Peace Building Fund support for Papua New Guinea. And it also offered us a platform to explain to decision makers in Bougainville what the Peace Building Fund is meant to achieve. And I think they were quite happy with what they heard about it and the various areas of intervention of the Peace Building Fund. One of them basically to strengthen the relationship between national government and ABG on a lot of political issues. And secondly, to make sure that the people of Bougainville are aware of the provisions of the Bougainville Peace Agreement, as well as issues around referendum.
Given this commitment of support, Speaker Simon Pentano is optimistic that the Bougainville House of Representatives can be able to demonstrate its competence by effectively carrying out its roles in a transparent and accountable manner, staying true to the Bougainville Peace Agreement.
So I think it's a useful aspect of giving some background information, some training, some induction to not just our members, but any parliament in the Pacific. We are fortunate, and this happened before my time, that my predecessor and the clerk at the time got into what we call a twinning arrangement with New South Wales, where our staff have been able to go down and train in the matters to do with parliamentary affairs, parliamentary administration, the procedures, the standing orders and so on. Well, we got just a little bit more than 4 years. Time runs really fast. My role in terms of what's going on at the moment is a presiding role, trying to manage the meetings of Parliament, the debates in Parliament, the questions. And you are right. The predominant issue under discussion is referendum.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Resource PNG. If you'd like to contribute to the program, get in touch with us via email on resourcepng@mtv.com.pg. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for Resource PNG. To view this episode again, you can log on to www.mtv.com.pg, where you can find a link to the Resource PNG page. We look forward to your company same time next week on Resource PNG. Bye for now.